Can you hear me? Sorry, it's very loud. Apologies. How are we all? Hello. Right, we're just going to have a bit of a chat. We're going to say stuff that you probably don't want to write. Then you're going to ask us questions that we probably don't want to answer. But that's the way it's going to go. Yay. So we've got, obviously, Seb, who you all know. We've also got Max Siegel, who is the CEO of USA Track and Field. And we have Renee Washington, who is the Chief Operating Officer of USA Track and Field and a board member of the local organising committee. So I'm going to hand over to Seb to start.
Thank you, Jackie, for your, as ever, colourful introduction. I'd have found that funny if I hadn't actually collectively just done 27 hours of executive board and 2 days of council. But I'm getting counselling as well. It's been a long time in coming, and I have to say we are all very, very pleased to be here. And it does seem that we've been through an extraordinary period since our last World Championships 3 years ago. I was with the Governor of Oregon, Kate Brown, last night with my council colleagues. She hosted a reception for us in Salem. And we were both reflecting that the last time, well, it wasn't the last time, but we met face-to-face in Doha in 2019 at the time of the last World Championships, and the world does seem to be a very different place than it was then. We've just finished 2 days of council, the first chance to be face-to-face this year as a council meeting. And we did make a number of actually big decisions. I'd like to share those decisions with you.
Oh, sorry. You keep going. We just need all the microphones back.
Right,
okay.
okay.
The speaker. There we go. No, we need it forward.
So, back to the council decisions. Of course, the centrepiece of both days really was the selection of two of our World Championships, cross-country and the World Outdoor Championships, cross-country 24 and 26, and of course the World Outdoor Championships 25. The Council on both occasions approved the recommendation of the bid evaluation panel. So the World Cross Country Championships in 24 are going to Medellin and Pula in Croatia. And in 26, they're coming relatively local to Tallahassee, Florida. The 2025 World Championships, which was a lengthy process, have been awarded to Tokyo. Look, and let me be really clear about this. This was for us, this was vindication of the change of approach to our bidding processes. We had 4 great cities, all cities capable of staging a World Championship, and all cities that I hope will, in the foreseeable future, be staging a World Championships. Tokyo scored the highest of the 4 candidates in the bid evaluation across some key focused areas, and we will all be delighted to be in Tokyo in 25, but also celebrating with the Japanese Athletics Federation at those championships their centenary. I've spoken this over the lunch break. I spoke to obviously the successful city, but I also did speak face-to-face or personally to the 3 cities that were not successful. And the point that I made was that this is only the start of the process, and that we will be working very closely with those other 3 cities to make sure that we can, as soon as we open the process for the 27-29 cycle, work closely with them to make sure that if they have an appetite, which we are encouraging them to maintain, that we have the opportunity to work with them to that effect. Again, one of the standing orders, I sort of feel like it's sort of season 17, box set 126, but it was the Russian task force Again, the three key elements in that that the Council supported in terms of the recommendations from the task force, that there would be continued oversight and monitoring of RUSAF's reinstatement plan. The task force also arranges for an independent audit of RUSAF's processes and progress against the reinstatement plan, the KPIs to be conducted. That will be conducted mid to late October of this year. And the task force will report back to the Council meeting in November, including the outcome of that internal audit. So back to why we're all here. Well, these are the first championships, the first World Championships outdoors, senior outdoor championships in a post-ish COVID world, a world where money is tight, disposable and discretionary spend is even tighter. Cost of living in all your countries, our countries, is escalating. And it is also, for many people, COVID is still a big public health issue. It is really important that we do see the world through this new lens. In some cases, this will be, as we will find in Oregon, this will be a tougher World Championships. In some cases, it will be an easier Championships. And in a way, the statistics I'm going to leave with you are slightly indicative of not only the challenge, but the opportunity. 40% of our athletes competing over the next 10 days are under the age of 25. They were barely out of their teens when COVID struck. And so the fact that these are a scaled down, the fact that these are sustainable and that they are a more intimate championships actually is probably more familiar territory for them than previous generations. 51% of the athletes that are here have no benchmark at all, because this is the first time they have actually attended a World Championships. And I think there are lessons for all of us to learn. There are lessons for the athletes, and there are lessons that we need to absorb as well as meeting organisers, championship organisers. We do have some amazing competition. We really do. I mean, the head-to-heads are, on paper, absolutely sumptuous. If our sport is about anything, it is about head-to-heads. There will be some great USA versus USA competitions, USA versus the rest of the world, probably marginally more global in its competitive nature than the World Series. And there is young blood coming through, legends that will be retiring, that haven't, for this occasion, have decided not quite ready to hang up their spikes. And we have athletes with both youth and experience on our side. And, you know, as I always firmly believe, that the most accurate audit of the health and vibrancy of your sport is what is going on at junior ranks. And two of those head-to-heads are going to focus on two of our rising stars at the end of last year, particularly out off the back of the Tokyo Games, Athing Mu and Arian Knighton, who are both, you know, really only fresh out of the junior ranks. So we are optimistic not only about these competitions, but what it means to have such a breadth of talent coming through in the junior ranks and now making their way through the senior ranks. So that, folks, is a sort of a scene setter. So, Jackie, back to you.
Thank you. Max, do you want to say anything, or can we throw into questions? Okay, so can you just raise your hand, tell us who you are, where you're from. Oh, do we have to start with you? Yes, okay. We will start with you. Is that Mike?
Hello, am I loud enough now? Okay, yes, I am. My name is Lynn from BBC Africa. My question goes to Sebco. Last year you told me that it was your hope and desire to see an African country host a World Athletics Championships. Nairobi lost a bid to host the 2025 Championships to, of course, a strong contender, Tokyo. So then, does that desire still stand while you are still World Athletics president? And do you think an African country will ever outbid a developed country to host the Games?
Thank you. The answer to that question in both elements is an overwhelming yes. First of all, yes, an African country is capable of staging a World Championships. It will have to be ready, and it will have to bear the scrutiny of a bid evaluation panel. We have a very different system now in place than the beauty parade that took place a few years ago. I spoke to Jackson Toure, President Toure, this lunchtime, and said that my ambition to see a World Championships in Africa and possibly in Nairobi is undiminished. And I stand by everything that I've said during my presidency, that it is really important that we work together with Africa to make sure that their time comes, and their time comes when it's right, and the Championships is delivered in a really, in a great way. And look, is an African country ever going to beat, a Tokyo or a Singapore? The answer has to be yes, that we want to make sure that those bids are of the highest possible quality, and we are prepared. Our HQ teams want to work very, very closely, and we will expedite as soon as is reasonable and we have the right pipeline of cities, the process for 27 and for 29.
Thank you. Gentlemen?
Hi, it's Eddie Pels from AP. Kind of in keeping with your theme, I'll ask this to Seb, and then maybe Max can piggyback. Did anything come up today about transgender rules? And or if not, where do we stand? Anything new from last month? And then Max, the question also when he's done would be, what's the USATF perspective on it?
Yeah, on transgender, no, we didn't have we didn't have a discussion. It wasn't on the agenda. We will certainly be addressing transgender as an ongoing issue in almost certainly our council meeting in November. The position, as stated at the moment, stands, but it is permanently under monitoring, if you like, surveillance. And that also is the case for our DSD regulations. They, as you know, were both brought into alignment in 2019. We've always sought a navigable route through. Inclusivity has been really a watchword, but the balance between inclusivity and fairness will always, in my view, fall down on the side of fairness.
Yes, just as a member federation, we work extremely closely with World Athletics, and we will follow their guidance and lead.
Eddie, but as a member federation, we work closely with World Athletics, and we'll continue to follow their guidance and their lead, as a global authority on the sport.
Hi there, Jonathan Golt here from Let'sRun.com. Question is for Max. Us in the track and field media, we're really excited for this World Championships, but I'm curious, in the larger sporting consciousness in the United States, I'm curious kind of how it stands at the moment. So I'm wondering what efforts have you guys made specifically on behalf of USATF to promote this meet and to try to penetrate the larger sporting consciousness in the United States?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We're excited about this opportunity to use it as a catalyst to create awareness for this event to take place on home soil and have a glide path to LA 2028. We just launched our 10-year strategic plan, or our roadmap to 2028. and we're working closely and in collaboration with World Athletics to first get an assessment quantitatively and qualitatively as to where the sport sits. And then we are working with within our organization and with some partners to collaborate on ways to not only reposition a brand, but we have efforts, at the grassroots level through our associations. We have a robust domestic circuit that we're launching. The award of the bid to Tallahassee is another example of hosting international events here, and again, using this event as a catalyst to raise the awareness and to support the growth of the sport domestically.
If you could stand, they can see where you are.
Hello, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Dan Williams, CGTN. Question for Seb. Last year at Tokyo, there were a number of breakthroughs from Chinese athletes. Just wonder what your expectations were at this meeting.
I see the progress that athletes have been making in the last 2 or 3 years, extending into these championships, and particularly at this point because it's been a stop-start process for athletes. If you think about how they came into COVID, they lost the competition, then they came back into competition for a short period of time with fans in the stadium, and then the fans disappeared. We went to Tokyo. So I think that the performances that we're going to witness here, whether it's China or any other of our powerhouse track and field nations and some of the smaller nations, I think will be very much in alignment with what we've witnessed so far, particularly given the intimacy of the stadium and the palpable excitement that there is in this particular community for track and field.
Hello, Victoria from BBC Sport Africa. My question is for Sebastian Coe and Max Siegel, please. You spoke about lesson learned to learn from these championships. Could you tell us already what World Athletics and the organizing committee have learned on the pre-championships regarding the visa issues that have been lately? What can be done to make sure that never again a professional athlete is not preventing to come to compete in a competition? Such competitions have been training for years for that. Thank you.
So I will start to answer the question. We've been developing the process, we being the local organizing committee along with USA Track and Field, since 2017. We continue to work with, and we are happy to the extent that we can be with our work with the USOPC in all of our efforts to get this done. Of the 5,500 participants that needed visas, less than 1% have yet to be either not have the visas, meaning denied, and or they're still being resolved. And even in daily today, we still have had issues that have been resolved. What complicates the situation is also the fact that COVID came in the middle of all of the process. And it is an individual process. So when people start the process, COVID was part of that. So no, I just simply was going to say that there's always, we won't be 100% satisfied unless we had 100% of the athletes here. And that is just not something that we will probably be able to achieve. But that is what we strive for.
I think the key learning for me in this is that this is multifaceted. There isn't just one particular issue that swamps all the others. It's about engagement with member federations. It's about the work that we've been doing with those member federations. And Renee is right. Some of the challenges have been in a COVID recovery economy, just lack of staffing in some of the post holders, and the length of time that it has taken to get face-to-face appointments, and sometimes the length of travel. These are not, there is no one, the one thing that's clear to me is we, battle to do as much as we possibly can, and we've been doing this now for some months, and of course, you know, there are political complications as well about nations, you know, being able to travel and nations coming into the United States. So, look, it is complicated, and Renee's right. You know, in relative percentage terms, it's a small number, but that's of no comfort if you're in that if you're in that category. And we will work right up to the last minute. But Renee's right. Will we be able to resolve all those issues in time for the start of competition tomorrow? No, we won't be. So, of course, there are lessons to be learned. But for me, the key learning is that this is a very complicated landscape. There isn't one, you know, there isn't one thing that you can look at and say that is the dominant problem in this landscape.
But we also have had a huge amount of support from USOPC, who have literally done the running on this and put in a lot of resources, and a task force working with US Track and Field, with the organising committee, to expedite and move things forward on a case-by-case basis. So it's been great. Yes, gentleman at the back.
Thank you. Thank you. Yoav Dubinsky, writing for Calculist in Israel. So my question is both for Seb and Max. What are the policies of World Athletics and USATF about protest, political and social protests during the games, whether it's Roe v. Wade, gun violence, the war in Ukraine, Israel-Palestine dispute, or any other social or political issues?
Look, you know my stance on this. I'm not a federation president that has ever tried to close down political discourse, particularly amongst athletes. It's not my position to do that, and my libertarian instincts tell me that that would be the wrong position to take anyway. What I always ask for is to make sure that there is an element of respect in the way that it is done. Respect to fellow competitors, respect for the rules and the codes of the sport. But I was really clear when we had the debate a couple of years ago in the lead up to Tokyo that I would not be sanctioning as president of a world sport athletes that choose to speak out on issues that also actually matter to me too.
So, yes, I'd like to echo those sentiments, and I've been very vocal and public about it as well. As someone who has been personally impacted here by many of those issues, we have done a lot to try to educate our athletes to use their platform for positive cultural impact. We have many of our athletes within our sport who've been at the center of cultural change and impact. And so what we try to do from an advocacy standpoint is equip them to express themselves in a manner that's effective and for positive social change.
Thanks, Max. Another gentleman behind.
Frédéric Suto, RFI. Question to Sebastian Coe. It is the first time we have World Championship in America, and it sounds quite exciting. I want to know what is your feeling about it.
No, I don't think it's quite exciting. I think it's actually very exciting. I'm very happy to be here. The history of the sport in this country has been, you know, a large part of my athletics career, both as a competitor and as relatively later in life as an administrator. You know, the US track and field team, Team USA, has consistently, for the largest part of my lifetime, been the powerhouse of track and field. One of the challenges that we have, and that's what I hope we can start addressing, which Max alluded to a few moments ago, and that's why we work so closely with USTF around a collaborative approach to what we can do to help promote the sport in the USA. And that's not just a sort of parochial view that we're in the United States and we want lots of people in the stadium. This is the largest sports market in the world. There isn't a federation president in any other Olympic sport that I have met that isn't as keen as I have been to take and have our world championships in this marketplace. You know, as it stands at the moment, there are some really powerful assets in the United States in terms of promoting the sport. Those of you who are familiar with the high school system here will know that at that level, it is the most participated sport in high schools, particularly cross-country. There are 50 million recreational runners in this country. The challenge is to form that really clear connect between what they are doing, and particularly as recreational runners, and believing that they're a part of the track and field landscape. And so that's why we've created a joint project with Max and his team, Project USA. We were here in 2014 for the Junior Championships. We were here again in 2016 for the World Indoor Championships. We were really clear that we did want to entertain from the United States a bid. We're here having been through that process. And we now have a glide path, which is really important from these championships into the 2028 Los Angeles Games. So, yeah, it is exciting, but we are also here on a mission too.
Thank you.
Ralf Scholz, ARD. Still political, we have the exclusion of Russian and Belarusian athletes here. It has been a controversial discussion lately in Wimbledon. How is your point one day ahead of the championships now, having no individuals from Russia and Belarus here?
Okay. Look, we have a settled position on this. We were one of the first federations to have that settled position. We made our judgment back in February on the eve of our World Team Racewalk Championships. And it was made from a very clear standpoint, and that was about the integrity of competition. It would have been inconceivable to have had a World Championships here with athletes from Belarus and Russia, two aggressor nations who have walked into an independent state, while it has been extremely challenging to get those athletes from Ukraine, with all those challenges, into these championships. It would have been inconceivable that we could have accepted that. So you know the position we took. The authorized neutral athletes lost that status, and we have made the same position clear around Belarus. And for the foreseeable future, that, I'm afraid, will be the situation.
Thank you. Gentleman at the front.
Hi, this is Atsushi with Japan News Agency Kyoto News. I'd like a question to President Ko about Tokyo hosting World Championships in 25. You said Tokyo scored the highest, but could you talk more the reason behind the decision of Tokyo hosting the World Championship, or is it cross competition between other three cities, or so?
The competition was very lively, and between Tokyo and Singapore, it was marginal. Where Tokyo came through strongly was on the stadium, the facility, the operational delivery of major athletics, track and field events, the history of the sport in Japan, the human resource that was available within that city to stage those championships, and also the commercial partnerships. And that was a very clear strategic imperative that we want to be able to open up and reinforce strong marketplaces for our sport. So, yes, it was a lively bidding process. It's really the very first time that we've had an evaluative process that is clear and transparent. All the bidding cities will have feedback, particularly those that will want feedback because they weren't successful. And I was very encouraged by the fact that all those 3 cities have declared already an interest in coming back into the bidding process at the right moment.
Any other? Oh, yes, I can. Hold on.
Hi, it's Rob Moore here from The Sun. A question for Seb and Max, please. This town is synonymous with Alberto Salazar, but of course he's banned from coaching. If he turns up and buys a ticket and turns up as a fan, would he be allowed to do so, or is he banned from watching the competition live?
We as a federation are charged with the responsibility of enforcing any kind of ban that is imposed on anyone. We respect Alberto's contributions to the sport over the years, but we take a firm position to implement whatever ban has been issued.
Yep. Okay. Oh no, you're stretching. You're yawning. Okay. Oh, yes.
One more question. We have 4 African countries among 7 countries that are considered high doping risk countries. Do we know when there will be a review of the Category A countries?
Yeah, let me be clear. The Category A countries are those countries that are deemed to have a higher level of risk simply because of the high level of performance and the number of elite athletes they have. That is the key metric. This is not in a way a watch list. This is a list of countries where the very nature and structure of the sport tells us that we need to be extremely vigilant. So those issues are monitored all the time. They're done through the Independent Athletic Integrity Unit, and for very good reason. I can't take you through the minutiae of that, but I do know from the way that organization operates within the World Athletics family that they take those issues very seriously, and those they are permanently under monitoring.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you in the stadium, and look forward to starting the media race and all of you being in it. Thank you.